All right, well, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the City Council meeting for the City of Lakeport for July 15th, 2025. We call the meeting to order, and can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, Councilmember Matina,
Here.
Councilmember Parlett,
Here.
Councilmember Price.
Here.
Pro Tem Disney.
Here.
And Mayor Costa.
Here. Next item of business is, or the next item is the Pledge of Allegiance, and we are just super thrilled because we're geeky that way. Super thrilled to have a wonderful group of youth and community members here to lead the pledge. So if you would like to come up at this time, I'm going to say just a few words about you and then let you tell us a little bit more about yourselves. These are, as you can see by their shirts, the red top. And so you are the Big Valley Rancheria boys basketball team. And I know we're going to hear more about your season and just your journey and your history here. And we love that. So first I'm going to introduce their coach, Kristen. I know that there's two coaches, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about Kristen. Kristen says this about herself. She grew up in the beautiful town of Lakeport, and she's a proud member of the Big Valley Rancheria. Her roots in this community have shaped who she is today and have inspired her passion for education and youth development. She currently serves as the education director for her tribe, a role that she has cherished for the past 8.5 years. This position includes overseeing the Boys and Girls Club, and they focus on creating a safe and supportive environment for tribal youth. And I believe that other members of the community are also welcome to come and join and participate in your Boys and Girls Club, which is amazing. Sorry, hang on. Kristen works closely with the local school districts to provide vital support to the tribal youth, helping them achieve academic success and personal growth. The Boys and Girls Club's programs are designed to foster confidence, knowledge, and discipline, a foundation for lifelong success. 8.5 years, you've been pouring your heart into that, and wonderful things are happening. And so at this point, I'm to Kristen, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about the basketball program and about this group of youth and about their past couple of years, I think, focusing on this year, and which she calls this a journey of growth.
Wakshie Kristen, Hahinto Dahe Benapoe, Ma Gurie. Hello, my name is Kristen Amparo. I'm a Big Valley Rancheria tribal member, and it's an honor to be here today. Sorry. It's definitely been a journey. All these boys can attest to that. When we started, some of our boys couldn't even dribble a basketball. They didn't know the difference between a double dribble and a travel.
That comes off. You want it?
Okay, thank you. They didn't understand the value of teamwork, what it means to be supported, of each other, not by others, but of one another. You know, their growth has been tremendous. I started this in 2017 when a group of high school basketball boys came up to me because they needed a coach. That year, we went up to Oregon, we won championship. We fell short in Nevada, but we came in second and we cleared out all of the awards, every single one of them except for the MVP, because the MVP goes to the championship team. I think we lost by 2 points. And that was the one and only time I've ever been given a technical foul. I was, I mean, those of you guys that understand competition, this is a very competitive game. And that's something that we teach the boys. We want to instill values in them, competence, you know, what it means to be disciplined, what it means to have hard work, and what that hard work can get them. And today that hard work landed us here in the city of Lakeport at this meeting, and they're proud of their hard work. We're proud of their hard work. Our community, like, Look at everybody that showed up for us today. Upon our return from Arizona, our entire community showed up for us. We had people out there with signs welcoming them because last year we went down to Arizona and, well, boys, how was it? Right? Like they didn't win. Um, and this was just in November, actually. We went to Arizona or Las Vegas. We went to Las Vegas this past November and I don't know what happened. They had a complete collapse, you know? They didn't believe in one another. I don't think they believed in themselves. You know, we had a rough start and we had a conversation. These jerseys that they wear today was a rebrand that we did this year for our boys. And we said anything that we did in the past, it doesn't matter. It's about moving forward and how we want to lead our journey and our destiny. You know, we gave them to this with the idea of changing our season around, with the idea of through hard work, determination, dedication, and heart, that they can achieve anything. We fell short of a championship team, but they grew. And I think they learned a lot about who they are as a team and as an individual.
Is it true, do I have this right? You ranked 7 among 64 teams
Yes.
in that tournament, and I
Yes.
think that that's a pretty amazing accomplishment. And I think the heart shows because from the information you sent, it was like they said, let's, we're going to go at this. We're going to go at this with all our heart this year. You didn't let last year stop you. And that's amazing. And we think you're amazing and you inspire us. So thank you for that. Does any of the team members want to add to that? Okay. Yes, no, yes, no.
Okay, hi, I'm Nathan, and a little bit about my experience was it was hard work, it took dedication, sacrifices, and um it was really hard at first. Um sorry, um it was really hard work that we put into doing 2 a days, going times of practice a day, running like 5 miles a day. Um was it just in the day or both practices?
Yeah, I did. Basically, both practice.
5 miles both practices. It took a lot of work to get where we are now, and I'm really proud of us for that.
Absolutely.
Hi, my name is Again, I know. Hi, my name is Andre. I'm 13, and I started this. Well, me and Ralphie here, we've been playing on this team since we were 6. We'd always come into the gym when she was practicing with her high school boys, and we'd always try to get in whenever we can, and we try to scrimmage with them. And then this is like one of my first times going to Arizona with this team. And it was just a really fun experience getting 7th place out of all the other teams. And we played really good.
That's amazing.
You want to say something? You guys good? All right, you guys ready?
Well, you guys being here just speaks volumes, even if you don't step up and speak a word, we're seeing you. We know what you've accomplished. And again, you're super inspiring. So we have a certificate for you here for just recognizing your accomplishment this year. And we also have some little gifts that we want to give you here today. Okay?
Beautiful.
And then for each of you,
Yeah, absolutely.
If you guys want to step up, each of you, we got a little something here for you.
Thank you.
All right.
And then we're missing one who's it's on the wall. Oh, that's it.
Oh, yeah. Cause I was wearing.
Does everybody have one? Oh, yeah.
So yes, I think there's more in those, right? I think you're all that in a bag of chips and then we're gushing over your accomplishments. So that's, they're. I know, yeah. We won't let them go yet.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't know how that works.
Extra in there.
Yeah, you guys just, if there's extra, you can just like, you can put something, whatever.
Coaches.
And don't forget.
I'm sure you know somebody. If there's extras, you know somebody to share with.
You guys can put it in the.
All right, so when you're ready, we need somebody to bravely lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
So you wanted it?
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Oh. Right. Thank you. So we did post your accomplishment on the city's Facebook page. So if you go and you look there, you'll read all about yourselves. Hey.
Congratulations. Yeah.
And put you guys in Hawaii. Or.
So we can get them. Kim, do you want to come down for a photo?
Sure.
Yeah.
I love the jerseys. They're
I know.
so cool.
They're awesome. They got you. They got you covered.
We can do something cool in the back. Awesome. Thanks, guys. All right, bye, team. Well done, Mayor.
Connection.
Hey,
Picking us up.
we're all in this together.
All right. All right, it's a hard thing to follow, something that positive. But now we're going to go on to the acceptance of the agenda. Do we have any urgency items?
We do not.
All right,
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as posted.
Second.
a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the consent agenda. The following consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the council at one time without any discussion. Any council member may request that any item be removed from the consent agenda for discussion under the regular agenda. Removed items will be considered following the consent calendar portion of this agenda. I will read out the items. A, ordinances, waive reading except by title of any ordinances under consideration at this meeting for either introduction or passage per Government Code Section 36934. B, minutes, approve the minutes of the City Council regular meeting of June 17, 2025, and the special meeting of June 30, 2025. C, approve application 2025-30-035 with staff recommendations for the Recovery Happens event. D, approve application 2025-036 with staff recommendations for Harvest Festival. E, approve a resolution rescinding Resolution 2973 from 2024 and revising the master pay schedule in conformance with California Code of Regulations Title II, Section 570.5. And F, approve the designated temporary disabled parking on both sides of C and D streets between South Fourth Street and their respective fairgrounds entrance gates from 4 p.m. on Thursday, August 31st to midnight on Sunday, September 3rd, 2025. Does any council member wish to any of those items? Seeing none, do we have any member of the public that would like to comment on any of those items? Okay, how about online, Mel?
Online, we have no hands raised.
Thank you. So we'll go back for a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And none opposed, motion carries. So we welcome public input throughout our meeting. We welcome it on any scheduled agenda item. And at this time, it's public input for any items not on the agenda. So any person may speak briefly about any subject within the authority of the city council, provided that the subject is not already on tonight's agenda. Per Government Code 54954.3A, the city council cannot take action or express a consensus of approval or disapproval on any public comments regarding matters which do not appear on the printed agenda. So those are the rules. That said, we really look forward to hearing from you. I have something in writing here, citizen input, Wilda Schock. Wilda, would you like to come up first?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council, city staff, public. Thank you for 10 years of supporting Shakespeare at the Lake. Could you believe it is actually the 10th anniversary of a production with Mendocino College, Lake County Theater Company, and support again from the community, cities of Lakeport. And after a couple of years, we added the city of Clear Lake as being a sponsor. This year, the Clear Lake Chamber of Commerce and the Lake County Friends of Mendocino College are joining in to make it happen. And it's happening in Verona, Georgia, not Verona, Italy. So you look forward to a Southern accent for Romeo and Juliet this
Okay.
year. Okay, so it'll be fun. We have a large cast from the public, from Mendocino College students, and it will be Saturday night, Sunday night, July 26th and 27th, the last weekend in July, 7 o'clock, Library Park. We'll have the shade all day. It'll be comfortable in the evening. People should bring their blankets and their chairs and plan to relax in the park for a couple of hours. So we look forward to seeing everyone there. And thank you again for the partnership and the cooperation all these years.
Fun. Thank you. Anyone else that would like to come up and offer a comment? Anyone else in the room? Come on up.
Any of this is going to be on the agenda, but I'm just going to fade
It's not on the agenda.
in. So, my name is Don. I live in Parkside, and I wanted to say how great things are going in Lakeport. Lots of great stuff happening. Parkside Phase 1 is continuing, and it's beautiful. And I hope that Phase 1 continues all the way around. It's market rate housing, and it's just a great idea. Although I have to say that we were told it couldn't be done by a planning commissioner. South Main Street, new paving. It was beautiful. It is nice. What was really fun was watching people try to negotiate that three-way stop without lines and dots in the road. It was pretty funny. The bowling alley is finally coming down. This is great. And kudos to Bethany for all the work that she did. I'm really happy to see that thing come down. Oh yeah, so we survived another 4th of July without burning down the county. And not for lack of trying. Because I brought some show and tell. This, I know you can't see it, but there's a big old fountain of sparks flying out of this thing. I found this in the parking lot of social services. I don't know what these are. I really don't. But they were out in the parking lot they were out at Westside Park over by the baseball fields. Oops. And then there's this bad boy. This was set off about 3 feet from the hill on the west side of the baseball fields. 3 feet where there's nothing but dry grass. I don't know how we didn't burn this place down. But it wasn't me. But anyway, so that's just a little of the stuff. And a valued and respected person told me that not to just bring problems, but bring solutions. I have a suggestion, maybe, that we can gather up some volunteers to go to places that the police can't be and be able to communicate when something is happening that shouldn't be. I don't know how that would work. I'm a little more prepared than I usually am.
This is the brief comment section. So are you?
Yeah, well, anyway, I especially appreciate the water faucet that was brought out to the small dog park. This is great. We've been hoping for that for years. And one possible solution for something out there is to get spring-loaded valves so that people don't turn the water on and just let it run. And last is the roundabout. It was getting pretty gnarly for a while there, and it's looking really nice. I got this notice from Public Works guys, I guess, and I want to read just a couple of sentences. During this time, temporary traffic controls and detours will be in place, and access through the roundabout will be restricted. Please plan accordingly and use alternate routes if possible. So I'm wondering, is the city going to say use alternate routes if possible when there's only one way in and one way out? I think that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Hey, before you go, I just want to say I live out there too. Appreciate you and your buddies that are always keeping that dog park just nicer and nicer. Anybody else with a public comment? Anybody in the room?
Kim Beal. And I'm curious about this thing called the Big Beautiful Bill that was recently passed and how it might affect us locally with them withholding federal funds, with the work requirement that they're putting on people with Medicaid. We don't have a lot of businesses where that many people can find jobs to work 80 hours a week. And I understand a number of places are looking for exemptions that rural areas can qualify for. And I was wondering, like, if you guys were going to look into that.
So during this section, when it's not on the agenda, we're like constrained. We can't have a discussion, but your question,
stick it in your head.
Yes, and so your question being raised does put it in our heads, and you are welcome to reach out and call any one of us directly to have a further
And how it's going
conversation.
to affect our hospitals, because if people do not have Medicaid, they're going to overrun the emergency room. Our hospital won't get paid for that, and that puts them in a place where they could actually close. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Any other persons in the room who would like to make a public comment? Okay, anybody online, Mel?
No hands raised online.
Great, thank you. We'll close out public comments. Next, we have presentations, and we are delighted to have a couple of presentations of professional certifications to acknowledge the accomplishments of a couple of our city staff. And I'm going to turn those over to the appropriate persons to speak to those accomplishments. Yes? And I think, is that you, Joey? Are you gonna?
Yeah, and I think I'm going first. So we'd like to bring up Chief Building Official Bethany Moss to the front of the room, please. Some well-deserved recognition. So yeah, she definitely deserves claps just for any reason at all. But the reason that we're actually bringing her up here tonight is so we're proud to recognize and congratulate Bethany Moss for outstanding achievement and accomplishment in obtaining her ICC certification for Certified Fire Marshal. Bethany has successfully achieved her 10th certification through the ICC, the International Code Council. The ICC is a leading authority in building safety, responsible for developing a comprehensive set of model building and safety codes utilized across the United States and internationally. The ICC's mission is to promote safe, sustainable, and resilient buildings and communities through the development of model codes, certification programs, education, and standards. These model codes form the foundation for building regulations in the United States, with each state adopting and amending them to address specific regional needs such as seismic activity, wildfire risk, energy efficiency, and environmental factors. As part of her latest accomplishment, Ms. Moss earned the prestigious Certified Fire Marshal designation. This certification required successful completion of 3 distinct exams, including a management module, a legal module, and technical fire codes and standards module. With this achievement, Bethany becomes the 102nd individual in the state of California to obtain the Certified Fire Marshal designation through the ICC, a notable milestone that reflects her dedication, expertise, and leadership in code administration and public safety. Please join me in congratulating Bethany on this well-deserved milestone. Yeah, that's crazy.
That's impressive.
Make sure someone gets a picture.
Don't you
Not gonna take a picture?
Picture, Bethany.
Yes.
Awesome,
Take a
you-
picture. You'll wish you would.
Picture. Did you have anything you wanted to share with us, Bethany, about?
I do. I just want to say thank you for to all of you for encouraging continued education for all of our staff, to our management, and then to all of our staff in general, because obviously when we're gone at trainings, we have to have a foundation that actually is able to pick up the pieces and make the day-to-day go on. So I just want to thank all of you and look forward to the next one.
Great,
job,
thank you.
Bethany.
I think Joey's got
Congratulations.
data.
Great job.
Fabulous.
Good job, Bethany.
We have a second celebration of accomplishment here, and this is Kelly.
Hillary Britton, please come up. So it is my distinct honor tonight to recognize an exceptional achievement by a member of our team, Hillary Britton, our Deputy City Clerk and Records Supervisor. She has officially earned the Certified Municipal Clerk, CMC, designation from the International Institute of Municipal Clerks, the IIMC. This designation is not easily earned. It is a prestigious and internationally recognized credential that represents high standards of professionalism, knowledge, and commitment in the field of municipal government. To qualify, clerks must complete a rigorous coursework and demonstrate extensive experience and consistently uphold the values of transparency, ethics, and public service. Hillary has done all of that and more. Since joining the city in 2012, Hillary has played a vital role in the operations of the city clerk's office. Her responsibilities are extensive and essential. They include ensuring transparency and access to city records, maintaining compliance with Open Meetings Act and Public Records Act, facilitating the city's legislative and elections processes, processing claims, contracts, facility rentals, and event coordination, serving on the city's communication team, website committee, and appreciation committee, and providing daily support to public staff and elected officials with exceptional care and professionalism. Her journey to the CMC began in 2014 with her first training at the Clerk's Nuts and Bolts. Since then, she's taken on professional development year after year, attending CCAC annual conferences and she's attended that 4 times and 3 new law elections seminars. Along the way, she earned a number of scholarships, totaling $950 from the California Clerks Association and $300 from the Institute of Municipal Clerks, which speaks to her dedication and her habit of finding the most efficient and thrifty route to success. As am I, which makes me happy. Very few clerks earn this designation, and we're proud to count Hillary among them. She's added a major credential to her name and has brought additional recognition and credibility to the city. Hillary, your work ethic and your depth of knowledge and your mad research skills are a huge part of what makes this organization better. So on behalf of the city of Lakeport, congratulations. You've earned every bit of this recognition. Congratulations, Hillary Britton, Certified Municipal Clerk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. So fancy.
You know how hard that was to hide from you?
Good job, Kelly. You pulled it off. Awesome.
Congratulations. Here you go, Hillary.
Did you want to say anything?
Briefly.
Okay.
Obviously, I had a great mentor. I have to say that. But I also want to kind of echo what Bethany said, that really appreciate the support from both management and council for supporting professional development. I think it's one of the things that makes the city of Lakeport and public service in general, but the city of Lakeport specifically, a great place to work, because that professional development is gold. It's transferable. You can take it anywhere. So, you know, young people looking for career paths, consider public service. You know, you really can get these, get that education and the things that you can take with you all your life. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Hillary. So I'm impressed that in our little town, little city, we've got, listening to what those certifications were, those are, like, not a lot of people go after those, and we've got them here. What what am I trying to say?
Honor.
What an honor, and what a high level of professionalism that are in our workforce here in our sweet little town of Lakeport. So that's awesome. Thanks, you guys. So now we're on to council business. City manager. I guess I'll announce it. Yes, it's the Sonoma Clean Power Feasibility Study.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, council. We have a number of folks here this evening from Sonoma Clean Power, and I'm not sure, you guys have anybody joining via Zoom as well? No, okay. I'm very excited about this presentation and opportunity. Sonoma Clean Power, I think at least my first introduction to it was back in 2019 when we were kind of investigating the feasibility in regards to adding Lake County to Sonoma Clean Powers Consortium. At that time, the analysis didn't kind of pan out, and we put it on the shelf, but we all agreed that it was something that we wanted to continue to take a look at, and and look forward to those opportunities that if it did look like there was a chance of it being viable and a benefit to our citizens here in Lakeport and Lake County in general, that we wanted to take a look at that again. And kudos to Sonoma Clean Power. They did keep it on their radar and they kind of addressed the three entities, Clear Lake, ourselves, and the county here recently. They've done some additional analysis that they're here to present this evening, where they do feel that there is some great opportunities here for Lake County and the city of Lakeport as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and ask if the Sonoma Clean Power folks want to come up and provide their presentation and overview of their programs, and then if it is something that the city is interested, what those next steps would be.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and the community. I'm Brian Barnacle, Chair of the Board of Sonoma Clean Power, also on the City Council in Petaluma. It's lovely to be on this side of the dais, and you have so many good news items for our council meeting. It's awesome to see. I'm really here to just say thank you for reaching out, and that I know on behalf of the whole Sonoma Clean Power Board, we're really excited to explore these conversations with you. It's not something we think you should take lightly. It's not something we take lightly. We pride ourselves on providing good service to our customers, being strong representatives for our customers at the CPUC. I think all but 2 years of our 11-year existence now, we've been able to maintain our rates below PG&E, which is something that we really pride ourselves on. We also obviously are much cleaner than PG&E. We are on a mission to eliminate carbon from our energy supply, but we're going to do that in a way that's affordable for ratepayers, because those are the people that, obviously we serve the most. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to our CEO. I'll be available for other questions, but just want to thank you for your time tonight, and hopefully we get your questions answered. Thanks.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and City Manager. I'm Jeff Cyphers, CEO at Sonoma Clean Power, and again, express my appreciation for inviting us here. So I do have a slide deck. Let's see. Sure. And really the context for this is, in addition to the 2019 exploration, we have been meeting with the County Board of Supervisors a couple of times, once back in May and then again last week. And we'll be in Clear Lake this Thursday as well to talk about this opportunity in some depth. And the pacing of this is your choice. So I have a slide deck where if I went through it slowly, it'd be a whole hour. If I go quickly, it's about a half an hour. You can cut me off at any time. You can say enough on that. I want more on this. We're absolutely flexible on this. The agenda as I'm proposing is really to talk about SCP. Who are we? How we're organized, what we do, some of the progress that our board has made on offering service, and really getting into some of the details so that you can begin the process of exploring this option. And I don't expect I don't even think this was agendized for any decision. So I'm expecting more questions, more back and forth, coming back and having another conversation. So first, I want to talk about what community choice is. So we are a CCA, and so community choice aggregation is this mouthful that I don't even really say very often, but legally that's the organization type that we are. And there are 25 of us now operating all around California and the shaded areas of the state, so almost the entire coast and increasing counties in the inland areas, are now served by CCAs. And what that means is we're generating the electricity for customers, but we're not doing the wires or the poles or the customer billing. So we'll talk about how PG&E still has a role. And the key here is CCAs really were formed following PG&E's first bankruptcy and the Enron scandal, for those who remember that, as a way to introduce better oversight over energy markets. So when Enron was essentially scheming California and extracting billions of dollars, and it wasn't just Enron, there were 7 other companies that did it, the legislature at the time really wanted better oversight, wanted more folks in the public interest having meetings in open forum, talking in plain language, and supervising energy markets. We don't replace PG&E, so we still rely on PG&E to do all the billing and to take care of what we call the grid today. So what Sonoma Clean Power does is we introduce an option. So today, customers can only have their power produced by one utility, by PG&E. And when Sonoma Clean Power offers service in a region and the governments agree to that, then customers have a choice. They can stay with us, or they can choose to return to PG&E for power generation services. And what the state requires is that we are the default generator. So when a public power provider in California exists, law requires that they become the default. So if a customer makes no choice, then we serve them. And so then if they elect to leave, they're back at PG&E. So quick little visual for those who are visual folks. We do the generation, PG&E does the wires, and in that partnership, we work together to provide power. So we often get asked, do you replace PG&E? And the answer is definitely no. And in fact, in the mid-90s, PG&E had to sell almost all of their power plants. So we're very much in a similar situation to them, where we're purchasing energy as a young agency. We've only operated for 11 years in the same way that PG&E does. So PG&E buys energy from Calpine up on the hill, so do we. PG&E buys wind power from, NextEra out in the valley, so do we. So it's a very similar kind of architecture. What we do is we take the profit out of it as a government. We don't charge a profit on that kind of activity. And we also have our customers own us. And so we have a very clear interest in advocating for lower costs, lower fire risk, lower emissions, and we don't have the pressure from shareholders to do something differently. So the agency itself, we started our service in 2014, and we generate electricity for almost all the customers in Sonoma and Mendocino counties today. 13% plus or minus, and it varies by about 0.25% from year to year, so it doesn't really vary much, have decided to opt out of our service and go back to PG&E. And by and large, most of the reasons why people leave is that they don't like government being involved in their lives. They're like, we don't want to have anything to do with government. We'd like to stay out of your business and go back to PG&E. Occasionally, customers opt out because of price reasons. Over the last 11 years, our chair mentioned that we've been lower cost for 9 out of the 11 years. And so usually when customers are opting out for price, they're doing it even though they then pay more with PG&E. So it's just a misunderstanding. We've gotten better at helping them see the benefit, and often we'll get PG&E on the phone to vouch for our lower rates. And that's very helpful. So one thing that's unusual about CCAs is because customers can leave, we're not a mandatory municipal utility or a roads fund or a pension plan or anything like most government agencies. And so as a result, we neither use tax funds nor can we. So we're not allowed to use tax to fund we have to pay for everything out of rates. And so that has some benefits I'll get to around protecting your city from liabilities that will come up. And I've already talked about the oversight. So I'll give it a couple just visual examples. We build large things. So a lot of your customers, about 15% or so of Lake County already has solar on their roofs. And that's pretty typical throughout our service territory in Mendocino and Sonoma as well. And so what we do is mostly not small solar. We do a little bit of that, but our customers have really taken care of most of that for us. So what we're doing is building large-scale wind projects. This is one that's 46 megawatts out in Livermore, California. And so one thing that illustrates is we don't only build local. We build local when we can, when it's affordable, but we really build in California when we need to for price reasons to stay competitive. We also do some small solar. So this is the Lavia Ranch in Petaluma, California. This was a ex-dairy that had closed, and we leased their land to build solar power. We work with local nonprofits. So one of the things that we've learned is nonprofits who have a high degree of vehicle use, especially delivery organizations, save a tremendous amount of money if they can use electric vehicles. The fuel is less expensive, the maintenance is less expensive, but the cars and vans cost more. So what we do is we provide grants to get them over that price hurdle on the front end. We also provide rebates for things like heat pump, water heaters, and space heating and cooling, and really support customers with better customer service. One of the things I'm proud of in the last 5 years is we've gotten better at school programs. So we have all the way from elementary through the trades and colleges and everything in between. We have various kinds of classroom programs where we're in classrooms supporting teachers with curriculum. We're giving science exhibits about electricity. We're giving scholarships to young folks heading into the trades and in the colleges, and really working on career technical education, vocational trades, and so forth. So want to update you on the progress so far. So we have been working with our board, and in May this year, we did complete a feasibility study where we did a really deep dive. Can you let me know if that was included in the packet?
It was.
Feasibility study? Okay, it's pretty detailed, so if anybody didn't make it all the way through, I don't blame you. But what we did find in that study is that that we didn't think it was going to be likely that expanding service to all of Lake County, including City of Lakeport, would have any negative cost impact on our existing customers over a multi-year period. There is some upfront expense, but there's also some long-term benefit financially for expanding service to our existing customers. And we also found that it was reasonably likely there would be cost savings in a majority of the years for Lake County customers as well. And I'll show you that track record in a little bit more detail. So that gave us a lot of courage to come back and talk about updates to the 2019 analysis that we did. And the box on the right is a disclosure that I think is really important. We work in a really volatile industry, and the California Public Utilities Commission changes rules. They change PG&E's rates 3 to 5 times a year, sometimes more. They change regulatory obligations. We have laws in California that change how much renewables you have to buy and of what type from time to time. So we work in a volatile space. And if you've ever watched your PG&E bill, you know that it's super volatile. It can go up and down a lot. And so just on June 26th of this year, there was a decision at the commission that sadly adds to that volatility. It makes good years look better and bad years look worse, and for our customers. And so this is after the feasibility study was completed. Yay. So basically what that means is the results we found in the study, the bookends get wider. So instead of looking at around 2 to 10% savings or so being typical in our forecast scenario, it looks like somewhere between 2% higher costs-ish and more like 14% savings is going to be more typical, which is a bigger range, and I don't like that. So we are pressing back on that decision. We'd like this to get down to a smaller variation. But what this does illustrate is any decision to be a part of a CCA comes with doing business in California in the electricity space. And part of that is this kind of this world of regulations that changes pretty frequently. And my hunch is if you get serious about this, we'll want to have like your attorney talk to our attorney and regulatory folks kind of come and have a deeper discussion about those kind of details. So our board did vote a couple months ago to begin a process internally at Sonoma Clean Power to explore offering service to the city of Lakeport, Clear Lake, and the county of Lake. And the intent is, and I will be asking them in the August board meeting that we have, to extend a formal offer of service so that you have something real to consider. Right now, we're having a conversation. It would be nice, in my view, to have a real option to look at. And so the board did ask me to emphasize in that conversation that having good alignment around key initiatives will matter, and that if there isn't good alignment, we should pause and have a deeper conversation about that. And so one of those initiatives is that we are working very diligently on building a very large amount of new geothermal power in Sonoma and Mendocino counties today. And to the extent that City of Lakeport has views about new geothermal power, we would want to know about that, and also understand what would make that feel like a positive in your community, and in your county more broadly, and check that kind of a conversation. So we can talk a bit about some of those technologies that have made geothermal more interesting again for new build. We're super supportive of the existing geothermal that's here today. We also know we can't duplicate that. What's there today uses a lot of land, uses a lot of water, and so we would have to go about it very differently for any expansion. And so we'll say a bit about that in later slides. So I want to talk a bit about how we operate. So the legal structure we operate under is a joint powers authority. And so we're set up that way for a pretty critical reason. JPA law in California is nice in that it is clear that the assets and liabilities of a JPA are generally not the assets or liabilities of its members. And so that cuts two ways. So the benefit is we have almost $3 billion of power contracts today. That's a staggering amount of power supply contracts. So if we actually failed, it's really important that our creditors have no recourse to our members, because there's just absolutely no way to cover that kind of a debt. The flip side is we also can't transfer funds from our accounts into your general fund. So that firewall has to stay pretty clean. So we can't send you dollars and you can't have our liabilities either. Ultimately, I feel like that's a pretty strong structure for an agency to have to stand on its own 2 feet. And so we do have on our board the cities of Sonoma County and the county itself, minus the city of Healdsburg, that has a municipal power provider, a longstanding one. And then the cities and the county of Mendocino, minus Ukiah, who has a municipal power. So anywhere where there's already a public power provider that's a full utility, we don't have any business. They've already taken care of that and actually have a better deal than we offer, because they do everything. So they've taken all the profit out of the wires as well. So it's not just a power generation enterprise. Our headquarters is in Santa Rosa, and we do our board meetings both virtually and live. And so any participation in our board meetings could be done from Lake County as well. And we have staff of a little over 50 people today. The key roles of the board are probably no surprise. They set the budget, they set rates, they hire and review the CEO. And really the key, I think, interesting part of that role is in setting the policies and all the plans that govern how we go out and plan for and build renewable resources and power resources, how much financial reserves we set aside to weather unpleasant years and protect ratepayers, all of those kind of policy elements. And then the board also approves the non-energy contracts as well. Energy contracts in California are often, almost always, approved on a same day they're negotiated basis, which means the policies matter a ton, and all the strict controls. So our own attorney, our outside expert counsel, myself and all our procurement team, and often our board chair and vice chair all have to get together and agree on a power supply contract before it can happen. But it's the board's policy that governs that process so that we can get good pricing. So I mentioned the JPA. I think I've actually spoken to this, so I'm going to skip that slide. That's basically saying assets and liabilities are not our members. The next one is really kind of why did we form? And the original purpose that we set out with was really pretty significantly dialed into building new renewable resources. And pretty quickly we learned that there's more to this than that. We really have to be fighting for lower rates, even outside of negotiating good contracts. We have to be fighting imprudent laws that increase costs in unreasonable ways. or regulations that require PG&E to do fire hardening in ways that isn't very effective. We've seen some undergrounding happen in areas that have no fire threat. We're concerned that sometimes the simple solutions like tree wire, the insulators aren't getting used in areas quickly enough. And so we are often in an advocacy mode to fight for the right kind of way to do fire management practices, because that's one of the things driving costs. And then really focusing on stability for rates. We haven't found any magic formula for cutting bills by 30 or 40% like we'd like to. When we had a good year, and in fact, the last 2 years, we've been able to provide 7% savings on total bills, which sounds like a very small amount. That costs us $50 million a year to do that. So it's extraordinarily expensive. It's a little over $7 million of cost to us for every percent of savings we provide on a customer bill. And so what we're finding is we have to find other channels to fight for lower rates. So it's not just advocacy work at the commission, it's also laws as well. So I think let me hit a couple more. So really working with customers to invest in lowering their energy bills, whether it's through behavior, whether it's, believe it or not, we often can help a customer trim $50 a month off their bill by teaching them how and when to open and close their windows. It's simple things. It's so often simple things like that about just managing your household a little bit differently. But sometimes there is an appliance replacement that's needed, and it's a big expensive repair. So we work with customers on that. We also are really dedicated to investing outside of geothermal in energy resources. So we're currently working to build some solar with battery projects in our territory. And I understand there's been some proposals here in Lake County for very interesting solutions for energy storage, like pumping hydro from a tank to another tank, and options like that we would want to have conversations about. I'll move to the next one. So I mentioned that CCAs like Sonoma Clean Power provide default service. But what I wanted to kind of emphasize is how that process works. So when Sonoma Clean Power rolls out to a new territory, a new service area rather, sorry, what happens is customers 2 months before any service begins start getting mail, and they'll get a notice every month for 5 months. So it's actually 3 months before service starts and then for 2 months after. And those are the notices that say, here's what's happening. Here are your rights. Here's how rates compare, and here's who we are. And then coincident with that, we're also out in the community running presentations. That's the kind of situation where we'd want all of your input about where should we be and when to have the most impact on making sure customers are aware of what's happening. And then during that 5-month window when all the notices are happening, customers can call us, they can get on our website, and they can say, I don't want to be a part of this, I want to opt out, and there's no fee for that. We do charge $5 if they wait after the 5-month period. So there is a small fee if they wait beyond that. And then for businesses, it is $20. So there is a small fee. If a customer does opt out of our service and go back to PG&E for everything, then PG&E requires they stay with them for a full year before making a choice. So there's no like flipping back and forth fast. We don't have that 1-year requirement. So a customer can leave our service at any time. So I mentioned the kind of if this moved quickly scenario, because this is kind of the soonest things could happen scenario. We would have more conversations this year. Our board would offer service. If you all got comfortable, say by November of this year, that things were looking good, we could file a plan with the California Public Utilities Commission to expand service. And that could be approved very early in 2026. That then starts a 1-year clock where we have to wait because state of California. So we have to wait a year before we can actually start. And what we've found is it's more favorable both for our existing customers and for new customers if we roll out kind of at the beginning of the summer season. That's when people actually have more time. They can pay attention for some reason. It's also when the rate structure kind of lends itself to not having to borrow money to do this for us. So businesses have higher charges in the summer month. And so we can actually use that revenue to finance the rollout of the service as well. So that's a sort of conceptual timeline if things happen in this calendar year. If you waited beyond that timeline, so beyond kind of October, November of this year for a decision, then it would push that back by 1 year. So it is basically a 1 year kind of waiting period. So how things look to a customer is how they look on the bill. And so I just wanted to show you what a bill looks like. So power bills are insanely complicated here. And we're really doing our best to keep our part very simple, which is we basically replace PG&E's electric generation charges with SCP electric generation charges. And so people who are kind of first time calling us almost always say, why are you on my power bill? I only have PG&E. Why did you add a cost? And so just to explain that, we take away PG&E's generation costs and we replace them with ours. And very often we can walk a customer through that pretty quickly. And once in a while, the customer doesn't believe us. So we get PG&E on the phone and we say, PG&E, tell them how this really works. And then they can confirm that. So we do have a good system for helping customers get comfortable with that. So I did want to talk, because this is a big decision, a little about benefits and risks, and then maybe use this as a jumping off point as well for kind of future conversations. So the real, to begin with, customers get a new option for a power provider that they don't have today. The amount of investments we can make into local energy resources is impressive. And we just did our first municipal debt offering, and it was $980 million, which I was very pleased by, because all of that did not increase our debt at all. It was used to refinance supply contracts and lower costs for customers. And so that actually baked in about a $8 million cost savings every year for the next 7.5 years. And so we really want to be able to use resources at scale like that to benefit the public. And one way we can do that is by constructing local resources. The funding we have for scholarships and nonprofits does vary pretty dramatically with our how good our rates are in a year and how big the need is. So in fact, our first donation ever was to Lake County for the Valley Fire victims. But we were so young that our donation was $5,000. It would be bigger today. But I think it's, you know, our social giving in the community can range from as little as a few $100,000 in a year to as good as a couple million in a really good year. So it's significant enough that it matters. A lot of that does go to scholarships, it goes to nonprofits, and it goes to relief efforts. Those are really the three buckets. And this year we're really prioritizing food banks. We're just seeing the need just skyrocketing. So that's been gratifying. We have an immediate ability to cut air pollution around California by switching power sources to cleaner resources. And that can happen on your first day. We actually have enough clean power resources today that we could serve all of Lake County without buying new power resources for a couple of years. So we actually could go out and fill that very quickly. We advocate, and before we kind of pass up that point and get to lower rates when we can, I want to say, so over the last 11 years, we've saved customers well over $100 million on rates, which sounds great, and it is, but that probably averages out to about 3% average savings, which then doesn't sound so great. Through our advocacy, we've cut rates, or bills rather, well over $200 million. So double that by finding math errors on regulatory applications, by pushing back against rate increases at PG&E, and by advocacy. So it's something that actually matters more than our rate reductions, at least in our history. but it's hard to show because we have to kind of tell a story about a rate case. So it's something that I think matters quite a bit. When it comes to rates, I do want to show some of the history. So, and I'll read what's in the top of the red circle so you can see that. I see it's covered up. So over that last 11 years, I guess 10 years are showing here. If the bar is above the midline, it means we were more expensive on total bills. And if it's below, we were cheaper. And so the track record is that we're pretty close. The reality is none of those numbers are gigantic. The biggest savings have been in 2024 and 2025 at 7%. The worst year we had, we were 5% higher. We are probably always going to be pretty close. And so one of the realities is that we're not going to save households on cost anytime soon. Where we're really going to help is in the advocacy side, in the customer service side, and community investments and donations. And what's in that red circle is important. We can't promise cost savings. We don't control PG&E, and we pay them a fee for things that are based on how they behave. So if PG&E extends a contract that they signed way back in the 90s, that's way above market price, and they bought it before we started, then our customers are on the hook for that. And so if they choose at their discretion to extend that contract, our customers will pay for that. And so because we don't control that, that's one reason. Another reason is regulations change, and also energy markets move around a lot. So I think that's pretty important to disclose, because I think it's kind of the number one thing on people's mind is, hey, I'd like a guarantee. The power sources today in California are primarily fossil and nuclear and hydro. So, and then I'll get to solar, which is a huge success story. But natural gas still serves 40% of California's power needs today. And one of the things that hides that a bit is that we have moments where our grid is 100% renewable. And that's what ends up in the newspapers. And so we have these like victory days where like, hey, we were super clean in May. And the downside is, as amazing as the story of solar has been in California, and it is pretty amazing. We went from solar being crazy expensive to being the lowest cost way to produce electricity in California, way lower than coal, way lower than natural gas, but it only runs in the daytime. And so we have recently started adding a lot of batteries to the grid to soak up the solar and give it back in the evening. And that is almost done solving the summer reliability problem. So even just 2 years ago, was it 2 or 3? 3 years ago, we had Amber Alert. Everyone's phones went off and said, save energy. That's probably not going to happen again because of batteries and solar. The downside is in the winter at night, when solar hasn't been producing much because it's cloudy and dark and the batteries were empty 3 days ago, none of that's really helping. And so that's when your resources here today up on the hill, geothermal is kind of one of these magical resources that runs all the time. And so when you look at that 5% of geothermal, we want to grow that. So today, our power sources, our default service, we call it Clean Start, is significantly hydropower and wind and geothermal. We have smaller amounts of solar than California on average, in part because our customers have so much of it. Our customers are producing so much. We have well over 200 megawatts of solar power on rooftops owned by our customers today. And what we're finding is if we add too much more, we're not actually helping cut emissions or costs because we're offsetting somebody else's solar power with our solar power. And so what we're really having to do is catch up on these other types before we can add a whole lot more solar again. And also, we don't want to get in our customers' way of getting the financial benefit of their solar. The premium option, we call it Evergreen, is where we actually produce renewable energy exclusively from resources inside our service area. And we make sure we're producing 24 hours a day. So this is really significantly geothermal today with some solar. We're adding batteries and some additional solar to that. That does cost an average household $13 extra a month. So that is not for everyone. But what we're finding is it does give us all kinds of tools to imagine how California's future could look if we implemented state policy all the way through. So if we actually ran out California's playbook for what they call Senate Bill 100, what would California look like? And we're starting to create that. And we've run this since 2014, so we have a lot of good data on that. So I want to get to geothermal. So we have been working on increasing our portfolio with geothermal for a number of years. And the long-term prospect of geothermal is pretty interesting. Due to new technologies coming out that lower the cost of drilling, largely that were invented by the oil and gas industry, and due to the fact that it can run 24 hours a day and doesn't rely on batteries to back it up, we're finding geothermal is one of the very few types of ways of producing power that could allow us to stop paying natural gas-fired power plants in Southern California to stay on life support. And that's really important. Even though we're burning much less natural gas at those power plants, we're paying them more money than we ever have in the past because they're sitting around, hardly getting used, but they have to be able to fire up on a moment's notice. So they have to stay hot, they're fully staffed, they're fully capitalized, and they're just waiting. And they often wait 9 or 10 months. I'm going to grab my water. I'll be right back. There are a handful of power plants that are only operating in about 3 months out of the year and only at night. And that is an incredibly expensive backup plan for the grid. And so our estimate, and working with the Department of Energy and their team on making those estimates, we found that California could trim about 30% off of our price tag of a future grid in the year 2050 if we added a ton more geothermal, because we could actually shut those plants down and stop paying them to be producing. So all of a sudden, this pretty expensive technology to build is potentially one of the keys to trimming costs. And so if you compare geothermal against an alternate, you have to look at solar, offshore wind, and some form of storage like batteries or pumped hydro combined to replace geothermal. So that becomes a really expensive alternate package for that. So we also are really working at attracting local investment and steering it. We really have been traveling around our communities to get the playbook for how do we drive the right kind of geothermal, the ones that produce good paying jobs, that are low water, that use less land, that deal with seismicity issues and air quality issues well. And we've begun to develop a playbook for that, that we've set out for development partners to look at. And we've signed up, we have 2 development partners today who've agreed to abide by that as they explore for geothermal. Pardon my voice. So the other piece of the context is that California has recently issued procurement orders for the Department of Water Resources to go out and construct 2,000 megawatts of new geothermal pretty quickly. And we're concerned that the state's going to ignore local governments when they do that and basically run us over and say like, well, we're just going to do what we want to do, get out of the way. And so a lot of what we're aiming to do is, as best we can, is steer that process. So it's not just our own geothermal development we want to guide, it's the states as well, and really make sure that we're, for example, we understand the geothermal setback area in Lake County is really important from the lake. So we want to make sure the state is aware of that and take that into account. I will move on to a map. This is very conceptual. That's Mendocino and Sonoma outlined with the geysers in a tiny yellow footprint. Obviously, the geysers complex is quite large. So this is a way zoomed out map. That red area in southeast Mendocino County and northeast Sonoma County is where we've already begun early conceptual work to explore for property to construct geothermal power. And the goal of our so-called geozone is to construct 600 megawatts of new power. And to put that into context, that's what, something like 80% or so of what's at the geysers today. So this is a major undertaking. This would be, you know, $7 to $10 billion of construction work, probably over more than 20 years. This is probably more like a 30-year effort. And if we can pull that off, then we think we can lower overall energy prices and supply all energy needs for all buildings and all transportation in our two counties, along with other resources that come with that we already have. So it's a big undertaking, it's ambitious, and we may fall short, but we definitely want to go for this because if we don't try, it's definitely not going to happen. How that map could change if Lake County as a whole came in. So this is a little bit less about the city of Lakeport, but certainly about your nearby neighbors, would be that a southern portion of the county, obviously with the lake setback excluded, would be potentially added to that interest area. And interest doesn't mean commitment, and it still means local folks have a say in the matter. But that's the region that our early mapping exercises and well-logged studies have found to be interesting for this effort. I want to talk about a couple of the risks too. So we talked about some of the benefits. I want to highlight two risks in particular for joining Sonoma Clean Power, and I've already hinted at the second one, I think. The first, though, is in order to construct new large-scale power resources, we do have to make a very long-term commitment. The shortest commitment we make for constructing a resource is 10 years, and the longest is 20 plus, 20, 25 years. And because we're making this commitment, it does mean that any jurisdiction that's joining our service is not allowed to force your constituents out of our service unwillingly without making sure the remaining customers are made whole. So let me unpack that. If City of Lakeport joined and then didn't like that decision and 5 years later said, we're out, the city could leave its accounts and go back to PG&E, and any citizen or business in Lakeport could also make that same individual decision with no financial consequence. But the city of Lakeport could not exit from Sonoma Clean Power and force all of the city out of it without an agreement that either says, I'm going to give you 20 years warning, which is a very long warning, so that you stop buying power for us, or you come up with a giant pile of money. And the giant pile of money, practically speaking, is so large, it's untenable. If you look at 20 years of power bills for your constituents, it's for sure in the tens of millions, probably over $100 million. So it's not, we don't think that's the viable pathway. The viable pathway, we think, is with a conversation about what's the soonest you could exit cost-free. And so the first thing I want to emphasize is joining a CCA is a long-term commitment. And the way I framed it for the supervisors last week is think of this as permanent. Don't start unless you're pretty confident this is like where you want to stay through different political cycles, through different worlds, through different technologies, a lot of different conditions. The second is, I've already mentioned this, but the fact that we can't guarantee lower rates hurts when our rates are higher. We did not like having rates that were 5% above PG&E. That is not fun. And because you can't force everyone out, it does mean we have to survive that kind of a scenario at some point in the future. I don't see that soon, but I can't predict the future very far in advance. The reality is this world doesn't lend itself to 10-year business plans, not even 3 years. We do 1 to 2 year planning, and honestly, the second year is fuzzy. That's how things change so fast. When cannabis was legalized, our electric load dropped 9%. Dropped. And I was like, why did it drop? I was expecting it to increase. But it dropped because everyone left our region and went to Barstow or the desert or somewhere else to get cheaper power and operate in factories and things in places like that. That was unforeseen, and it was a big impact, and we survived it well. But surprises happen. AI could change things. If you had a data center move to Lake County, your load could double in a year, like the amount of electricity you use. So one AI data center uses about as much energy as the city of Santa Rosa, like one. So this is like a whole other game, a very strange world. I mentioned why we can't guarantee our lower rates, and so I will move to the process. And I only have 2 more slides, so I hope I'm not boring people. So in terms of process, what we're doing this month and next is really doing all these initial presentations for the first time as a deep dive, but really inviting all the questions. So whether at your direction, I'd love to work with your staff on collecting any questions and making sure answers get made, further presentations. Lawyers can talk to lawyers, whatever is needed there. I am going to ask our board to extend that formal offer of service on August 7th to all 3 jurisdictions, the 2 cities and the county. And then between August and October, ideally, November is the very latest date this year. Each of the 2 cities here in the counties would have an option to vote to join in a way where service could begin in the summer of 2027. And if you chose to wait, then that would kick back a year. And there's a kind of 2-step process for joining. There's an ordinance and a resolution. It's a little clunky, but the CPUC requires an ordinance for their purpose, and we require a resolution for ours to join the JPA. And really the purpose of their ordinance is to clarify the commitment, and ours is to clarify that you agree to abide by the terms of our joint power agreement and how our board works and voting and so forth. And then in November, we would file an updated plan. And so that timeline, just graphically, we've done the feasibility study. We've started our own internal, I should say, review period. August would be that board invitation. And then the new members would be later this year, and service could begin in May of 2027 or later. And so I want to, that's a lot. There's plenty more to talk about, but I want to turn it over to you and just see like, what further do you want today?
Well, thank you. That was very informative presentation, as was the information that was provided in writing. So thank you. And so council members, do you have questions?
The view of the bill, you know, it's a nice clean bill, and you said there's all these other, when you look at the PG&E bill, there's all these things that people wonder about. And in a APC meeting, we had a question on what does it cost to give out free energy kits and how was it paid for? Well, it turns out it's paid for by ratepayers on customer assistance programs, which we were kicking around numbers, 2%, no, 7% for households. I have a business and it ran between 9.5% and 11%. That's a PG&E thing. You're providing the power and they've got all these lines on there and, decommissioning, and it just goes on for days. And it turns out that, in a good month, I could pay $1,200 for customer assistance programs, which I didn't agree to. And at home, I'm paying, people are paying $70 or $50 on a big bill, which is $600 a year, which they did not sign up for, to give away free energy kits and help out people with HEAP. Is that all stay in here?
Yeah, sadly, yes. And what I would hope is to have any new member cities like Lakeport helping steer us and guide us on the advocacy around things like that.
Well, I love the sound of advocacy because I don't feel we're getting advocacy. They steal the money and then they go around and give it out in dibs and dabs, and they let you know that all these things are free. They're not free. The old saying, if something's free, you're the customer, or it's not really free because you already paid for it or someone else is paying for it in spades. So in other words, the real energy bill would not look like this. It would have like those 12 lines of all these expenses, and then they substitute your generation for their generation, but it still has the ugly appearance of all these fees.
100% correct.
Yeah, okay. That's
Sorry
bad
to say.
news. That's bad news. Very bad news.
I had a couple of questions, just kind of clarifying the relationship with Sonoma Clean Power and PG&E being the distributor. So can you just clarify a couple things? One is the delivery charges from PG&E. How volatile can they make that? And have we seen any pushback from PG&E going, you guys left us, we're upping your delivery charge because you're now with Sonoma Clean Power?
So I'm going to take two parts to that. So how volatile is it? Very.
Okay.
And we work hard to try and advocate for it to not be quite as volatile as we're challenging the PUC on their recent decision. What changes though, the kinds of games that PG&E does play are not that one.
Okay.
Because it's easy to catch them doing that.
Okay.
The kinds of games PG&E plays, in all candor, are very complicated, find the ball, like kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we have a team whose job is to go read mountains of rate cases and work across our 24 sister agencies all around California and share notes, because it's not just PG&E, it's in Southern California too. And we try to find errors and we try to find the ball. And so it's not that they have singled out CCA customers and tried to drive up those rates. It's more like we're going to hide, executive compensation, or we're going to hide this, or we're going to hide that, that we go after. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Another couple questions is similarly with PG&E owning the lines and distributing the power. Would you guys have any control over wind events and branch hitting the power lines and shutting off power, or the public safety power shut off?
So not control.
Okay.
But we have won some victories. So here's one thing I'll highlight just as an example. We have a region with a large retirement community in our service area today where they had not only been evacuated during a fire and had homes burned, but also as a result of that had very frequent power shutoffs. And a lot of those folks were dependent on electricity for medical reasons. And so we prioritized trying to find a solution for that region. And we found one. And we found that if PG&E had undergrounded just a quarter mile of line over here, that they would never have to shut off that neighborhood. And so we went to PG&E and they said, well, that's a middle income neighborhood, so we're going to prioritize it behind low income. I'm like, they're also old and they're also at risk of dying in a shut off. And so we went to the commission, and thankfully, by the time we went to the commission, PG&E agreed to work with us on that. They did the work and they haven't shut off that neighborhood since. So that's part of what we're fighting on, is trying to say, like, even though we don't control the shutoffs, we do have the people on our team who know how the grid works and who know how to figure out how an answer can be brought.
Yeah.
It's not always that simple. We also have regions where there's like a 13-year wait to fix the problem because we got to fix something in the Central Valley before we can do what we need to do here. So sometimes it's a harder fix.
Yeah. Thank you. That really answers it. One more question as the relationship with PG&E goes is solar credits for the people that got into the NEM 2 or NEM 3 rate. How does that work with Sonoma Clean Power?
So they don't change. So state rules under CPUC, people who are under NEM 2.0, for example, stay under NEM 2.0. If they're under 3.0, they stay under 3.0. So we don't change a customer's status on that. The biggest help we're providing solar customers, and this may sound small, but it actually ends up being a big impact on the bill. We're helping them learn how to get full retail value out of their production. And so it actually matters. Quick example, if you're still, like, let's say you have an electric car in solar, so many of those customers are charging their cars at night. That is wrong. You charge it when the sun's shining if you're home. because then PG&E doesn't even charge you anything for the power you're producing and you're getting full retail value. If you're charging at night, you're actually using fossil fuel to charge your car and it's way more expensive and you're getting less credit for your solar. So you're getting like hammered several ways. And so we're learning, and not everybody has an electric car and not everybody works, from home. And so there's all kinds of different solutions. But when you run a dishwasher, like when you turn your AC up and down, all those things matter. And so what we're finding is that basic education can change bills by $100 a month sometimes. So it can be a really big impact. Yeah.
That's so twisted. You get the electric car and then you go to charge it at night and it's using oil to.
Right?
That's really, really messed up. So I have a question. Did you say it's not for profit?
So legally, we're a local government agency or an
Okay.
agency of local governments. So we neither charge for profit nor can. Yeah. So a not-for-profit public agency is a really clunky way of saying it.
Okay.
I don't have any questions.
I have another one. The idea of, water, the more you use, the more you pay. Whereas if you buy a 2x4 at the lumber yard and they say if you get 6, it's going to be double. And if you buy 12, it's going to be quadruple. It's always seemed kind of insane. But it does encourage people to use less. But when you're in a commercial business, almost any commercial business, especially I guess AI, the more they use that. But is it tiered the same way as PG&E? You really get punitively destroyed after you get to a certain level at home and in businesses. Is it tiered the same way? Does it follow their same guidelines?
So I'm going to look and see if my team member Felicia knows the answer to that. Okay. So the rate structures are the same.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah. The thing I would love to change if I had a magic wand in California first is there's 160 different rates in PG&E territory or something like that. We need like 3. We need residential, commercial, maybe large commercial, and maybe ag, something like that. The fact that we have that many rates makes this world crazy complicated. And it does mean that I can't even keep track of all the rate structures. So we do have a team that helps us with that. And if you have any detailed questions about rates, let us know and we can bring like something in writing as well.
So I thought it was interesting to sort of listen to how you talk about the relationship with PG&E, and it must be a really interesting relationship for you to navigate because you have to partner with them for various things, and then you're constantly doing advocacy because you understand the ways that they are not helping your customers, and that's exactly kind of what you're fighting, for lack of a better word, or you're trying to build something better, and it's not in their best interest oftentimes. So I just thought that was interesting. But I guess I was wondering, you've kind of spoken to this, but does what you do at SCP, does it to any degree cushion the volatility of what goes on on the PG&E side of things?
It's not supposed to. So one of the rules at the PUC is that the formation and existence of a CCA can't hurt the IOUs financially or their customers, and vice versa. IOUs aren't supposed to be able to hurt us. The reality is the world's really complicated and it's hard to police that. And that's a constant battle for us. And when we talk about our relationship with PG&E, it's both wonderful and horrible. It's wonderful because when we work with their customer service team or their customer rebates group, or when we work with just engineers in their shop, it's phenomenal. It's a wonderful experience. It's peer-to-peer. It's like problem solving. When we're out there talking to linemen, it's like feel good, like you're fixing the grid. Yeah. It's really when it gets to the executive level and the strategy where the profit motive is understandable and even respectable. I think where it gets odd is when the regulators don't regulate or they don't regulate well. And then things get strange. And so we are finding ourselves having to play a role as a quasi-regulator, not with no power, but with the power of a voice to call up Senator McGuire and say, hey, can you help us fix a problem over at the commission? And so I don't even place a lot of the blame with PG&E. I place it with the regulatory model. We're really in a world where, here's a really concrete example. Back when the renewables portfolio, that's the renewables requirement in California passed, it was conceptually a good idea. But the rule got passed down from the legislature to the utilities and the commission and said, you have to buy all these new renewables that are very new and very expensive, and you can't raise rates. And nobody said you can't do that. Everybody tried to make that happen, which I guess is laudable, but what it led to is all kinds of shenanigans to like hide the costs or not pay for this or have deferred maintenance or all this. And so that system is part of the problem. And it's something that we just try to call out and say, like, we're going to call a spade a spade. And if we see something that's a policy that's driving up cost, we're going to say, you need to know it drives up cost. And then let's make that decision wisely. Maybe it's still the right call, but you need to know. And so that can lead to strange things. So that's part of it.
I mean, it's such a giant and long-standing situation that you stepped into, right? And so I'm just having this visual picture of, David and Goliath. You guys would be David. And so the other thing is that I don't know if it's even instructive in any way to look at what was happening in the 2 years where your rates were higher, or is it just so semi-random that it's not really a learning event because of the volatility?
So what happened is PG&E's exit fee on our customers. So this is a fee they charge to our customers because they bought a bunch of early, especially renewables contracts when they were expensive. And our customers have to make sure they're made whole. When they sell that, they liquidate them in the market. That fee they had under collected in the prior year, and their forecast for the value of those contracts for the following year was that they'd be worth even less. And so they would have to charge us even more. So it was the double whammy of making up for an under collection plus charging us more for an estimate. And that meant our customers paid 120 million more in 1 year than the prior year in fees alone. And so that led to a 5% higher, even though that year we were also helping subsidize rates. It would have been 7% if we hadn't subsidized rates. And so coming up, probably next year, we'll be subsidizing rates again, but it looks better. It doesn't look like we'll be above PG&E, but it does look like we'll need to feed back from our reserves. So we keep reserves for that reason, to smooth out the roller coaster when that happens. And yeah, and it can be big.
Okay, and then I think just my last is a clarification. So the need to commit seems clear. You described that very well. But you also described a scenario, I just want to make sure I understand, let's say the city of Lakeport, every single person could voluntarily leave and there would be no financial, not that I'm saying that would occur. I'm just saying that people could. It was just when the entity says we are exiting, this entity is exiting, that is when there is a financial.
Correct. So the liability, if every Lakeport resident left, that's tolerable because Lakeport's not a giant city. But let's imagine all of Lake County left on one day. The liability from that would be the agencies, not the members or the customers. So the agency could suffer from that and could have a very rough year. When we studied that kind of risk, we considered it to be moderately unlikely to occur, but not impossible. And so we did start preparing for reserve conditions, customer communications. There's a reason we're out in the community a lot, because we need people to appreciate what we're doing and to see what we're doing. We came here in a electric truck with our brand on the side, and that truck goes everywhere and powers every booth we ever run at every fair and everything. And that visibility matters because we want people seeing who we are.
Yeah, and I really did. I thought you did an excellent job breaking down all of the, you know, just putting the facts out there. Here's the good, here's the thing you need to be aware of, and, you know, with the numbers and projections and such, and telling about the history. I really appreciated that.
If you don't mind, I do
don't
have a
mind.
couple more questions.
I don't mind.
One is a long-winded question, so bear with me here. You mentioned the JPA structure of Sonoma Clean Power and that firewall, the split. You said that you couldn't contribute to the city's general fund, and we're not asking for that. But my question is, let's say 30 years down the road, you guys build a geothermal facility just outside of the city limits. We have tertiary treatment on our wastewater. Would we be able to sell that wastewater to you?
Yes, and anything established through a contract that's authorized by your city and our board is an allowable transaction. It can't be for the purpose of just exchanging funds. It has to be for a service that of reasonable value. And so for selling wastewater, absolutely. For providing a service that's clear and well articulated, absolutely.
But we just can't ask for a handout.
Exactly.
Got it. My final question is the board structure for Sonoma Clean Power. I want to make sure that if we join, that Lake County and Lakeport has equitable seat on the board. I saw in the feasibility study, it would be 2 seats, one for the county and one shared between Lakeport and Clear Lake. It sounds like that's kind of the standard, but could you go into that a little more and not justify it, but just explain it?
Sure. So we did start with an intention of serving only Sonoma County way back in 2014. And so our history is that we had a seat for each of the jurisdictions in Sonoma County. When Mendocino asked for service, when we looked at how many customers they would bring and how much electricity and revenues and sales they would bring, that kind of number looked like 2 seats on the board. And so the elected officials on my board and in Mendocino County at the time negotiated a compromise, which was let's offer a seat to the county and one to be shared amongst the incorporated cities. Coincidentally, when we look at Lake County, same thing happens. So Lake County customers, population and electricity load and sales is about the same size as Petaluma, one of our cities, and our board chair represents Petaluma, the city today. And so Petaluma has 1 seat on the board, but that's pretty extreme to offer only 1 seat. And so it makes a little more sense to look at what the model we used in Mendocino, where there's one for the county and one for the shared cities. That's ultimately not my decision. That's the board's decision. So that would be my recommendation. And so I wanted to disclose what staff are thinking, but to be clear, that's the board's call.
Okay. Thank you. That clears it up.
Any other questions from council? Okay, so city staff, do you have questions that you want to pose? No, okay.
We're ready for
So we'll open up for public input, questions, public comment.
You mentioned Petaluma. You remind me of like a chicken farmer, and you're taking your business on some land and you're raising your eggs there, and the land is owned by foxes and wolves. So keep the lights on and keep eyes open. I'm very concerned. It doesn't make sense. You're a competitor. I think it's important. I'm just going to put some ideas to think about out there. I've talked with like the PG&E rep a few times, and very good person to talk to, very personable. And I'm going to have the audacity to say something that I might be wrong. I don't think we have an energy problem. I think we have an energy deceit. There's something called fusion energy. I have a friend who works in Orange County for years in the industry. It's uninterruptible power. I'm so glad you mentioned AI, because I'm pretty sure AI is being run by fusion, and we have quantum computers. One is, I believe, in USC, and these are high-powered computers. Jordy Rose, I learned about it years ago in a TED Talk. They take tons of energy. So yeah, if AI came to town, they already have the energy to run these things. I feel like what may be happening, again, maybe is the key word, We have two worlds running here. We have a world that is running in fusion and cheaply, and they're the haves. And then we have the have-nots, which are the poor, the middle class, and the small business people who don't know about what the haves have, which is fusion. And these are the things that power the things that are beneath our feet. The cities, the things that they're running underneath here, we know about them. The government runs them. They don't have an energy problem, we do. And when I hear about the oil crisis, these are just things to create wars and continue the propagation of tyranny. And I just put that out there because I have you guys are a smart board. Look into fusion energy, because I believe those who run things, run the world, the haves, are using energy as a form of tyranny against us. And they know what they're doing. I've been studying this for a long time. So just please look into fusion energy, and I would like to see us not be deceived. The last 5 years have taught us a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public like to comment? Come on up to the microphone. Thank you.
So I've been a fan of electricity for a really long time. I'm pretty sure in a zombie apocalypse, I wouldn't be one of the survivors. But when you look at, I'm confused because my thoughts regarding PG&E and the CPU is this group of 5 people who just automatically stamp approval on any rate increase. I mean, I've never seen something that said, that they've turned down a rate increase. So with a lot of our power sources in California, the governor doesn't really seem to like them very much. So whereas PG&E is getting these constant rate increases, which to me seem like they're just building more profit, when it comes to this situation, is their cost based solely on their cost of getting the power? Or are there, how are their rates set? Is it like their actual cost, or is it their cost plus something?
Are you asking a question about how SCP
Yeah,
forms?
yeah, because the difference doesn't seem to be that extreme.
How about I'll jot that question down, and if we'll finish all the comments and questions from public, and we'll have the presenters come and try to answer that, okay? Any other comments from the public? How about online, Mel?
There's a question in the Q&A. Would you like me to read it?
Yes, please.
It's from Studio 127. The question is, would there be windmills in Lake County? If so, how long do they last, and what happens when they are no longer in use?
Any other questions showing up there, or people with hands raised?
No, that's the only question, and no hands raised.
Thank you. Would you like to come back and provide further info? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the input. First of all, the fusion energy I'm aware of is 93 million miles away, the sun. Really awesome at running solar power. And for explaining the relatively small differences in how we set rates, it starts with the fact that PG&E's side of the bill for delivery is a little over 2/3 of the total bill. So for us to produce savings, we have to be way cheaper on generation. So like right now, we're like 22% cheaper on generation. But we don't say that in public because nobody pays for generation. They pay for electricity. So if I went around and said we're 22% cheaper, everyone's going to expect their bill to be 22% cheaper. The total bill right now is only 7% cheaper. So we're trying to make sure we speak to a customer the way a customer thinks, and customers pay whole bills. So that it starts there, that our ability to have big savings is modest. And then the way we set rates is we calculate how much revenue we need to bring in to cover our costs. And then we estimate how much energy we're going to sell in a year. And then we divide the revenue by the sales and we come up with a unit cost. And then we spread that around to our customers in the individual rates. And so it's basically cost-based rate making. And so if there is any extra charge, it's because our board prioritized something as being above and beyond the minimum cost of power. And that could be a donation to a local nonprofit. It could be an investment in something even like a home retrofit kit or things like that. And so, but those are all board decisions that are made in public with public input.
Thank you. Did you want to make a comment on the windmill question?
Sure. So we don't currently have any proposed wind power projects here. And one thing that is a norm is that when a power project is proposed and the bar is very high for when a power project is proposed inside our service area, there's a lot of community engagement, there's a lot of public input, and there's number of meetings, town halls, things like that to gather the input from customers. What happens to wind turbines when they're out of service? I don't even know, but I doubt they're recyclable. A combination of fiberglass, aluminum, polymers, all kinds of things. My guess is it's landfill, but I'm just going to start with that.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, so I guess we'll bring it back to council for any further discussion.
Yeah, I want to just thank you, Jeff, for coming out and speaking with us, Brian, the board, for having an interest in Lakeport and Lake County. I really like the prospect of giving people an option for something better than PG&E. So I think as a city, I mean, just one of the five, that I would love to see the plan from your board, see it presented to us in a more formal way. But I think this is a great discussion, and happy you guys came out.
Indeed.
Well, the one thing that I really like is, as I pointed out a moment ago about the advocacy, I think that it sounds like you're doing advocacy in earnest, not just putting it in your bills, go to our website, order the energy kit, do all this stuff. And it's just like all this minutia coming at you while the bills are just skyrocketing one after another. And I agree with some of the people from the public. It's like, seems like it's just like, what's next? And, in July, you open your bill and then you faint because of the price. I think that having an option, and I was really touched by the fact that they're out there talking to people, fighting against the CPUC instead of, working together to just destroy the middle class and businesses the way I feel it. So I'm really like that part of it. And I think they have more of a long-term kind of a beneficiary thing instead of a predatory situation that I feel that PG&E, and yet they're not hurting for profits. I had a TV program, and I remember when they went bankrupt, they had a judge somewhere approved their bonuses after they ran themselves into bankruptcy. And there was a news story on my program, and I said, really? Normally, when you go into bankruptcy, they should have been fired, not bonused. And some Supreme Court or local guy said, yeah, it's okay, take the money, because the ratepayers are going to pay for it. So it's no big deal. So I like the whole idea of this, and the possibilities to me seem way brighter than what we've been putting up with. It just never ends.
What is that?
It might be the,
What is that?
it might be
It's
that
one of the microphones.
No, it's a.
Oh, it's
Holy moly.
Uh,
All right.
That was Mel over there.
That's so funny.
He's going.
Yeah, we're all looking at Mel. Mel, get stop. All right.
Oh, go ahead. Let's see, there's a lot of compelling benefits, especially the advocacy, like Kenny was saying, but it doesn't come without any risk. Gives me a little bit of pause, but I think my lack of any love for PG&E makes me curious to find out more.
Councilmember Price.
I agree with, Councilmember Matina. I think having an option is, a good idea, and I look forward to hearing more.
And yeah, I agree with everything that's been stated. And I have to say, Councilmember Parlett, it was like spot on everything you pointed out. I think the advocacy is huge because somebody knowledgeable and determined and committed needs to be doing that, capable, and you're doing that. And the energy that you put into that effort is something, that it's just vital. It's like it has to turn the tide. Something has to change in the way things are being done, and that's where you learned quickly that needed to be part of your package. And then also going out and trying to find all of those ways to tangibly generate other kinds of energy or expand ways that clean energy can be generated. And I appreciate your brutal honesty that, you can't guarantee lower rates, but because it really makes everyone think about what is this picture about? Is it about just getting lower rates, or is it about some other things that we value and we think are important and necessary for the future? So, yeah, are we ready there was a motion.
I'll go ahead and move to receive the presentation from Sonoma Clean Power regarding their updated feasibility study and direct staff to continue participating in regional discussions with SCP, the County of Lake, and the City of Clear Lake, and to return to the City Council with additional information should SCP formally extend an offer of service.
Second that.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor? None opposed. Motion carries. Thank you very much for your time tonight. Next item is the mission and vision statements. It's to discuss and clarify the intended purpose and audience of the mission and community vision statement. Further, to provide direction to staff on whether and how to solicit additional community input before finalizing the statement for future use.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this item is a follow-up to your most recent council meeting on June 30th when we were looking at the adoption of the budget and looking at the community vision statement and mission statement that are contained therein. Your council took action to make some amendments to that language, but also directed staff to kind of return to have kind of a broader discussion in regards to this item and look at, what kind of options you might be needed in regards to public input or, what this statement is supposed to kind of stand for. So I think just a quick background, we did some work on it. We found that the current mission and vision statement, prior to what was just amended with the last one kind of dates back to the fiscal year 2012-13 budget and kind of remained unchanged until recently at the June 30th meeting. Aside from the annual budget, the only other place that we were able to really find the use of this statement was on the city council's webpage, a portion of the city's webpage. The newly adopted language, I think, it reflects, I think, a better, more clear statement, but it didn't really, I wouldn't say, change the larger vision piece of the city as a whole. So I guess that the starting place that I would kind of ask is this statement that appears in the budget, is it really the community's mission and vision statement? Or is it maybe just more like is it a philosophical or outlook statement of the council and staff in regards to the budget's use? I think that would be kind of the first kind of question that staff would have, because I think that would kind of guide what kind of necessary impact or input might be necessary to carry that forward. If it is really just the philosophical kind of outlook of the council and how you look at your promise to the community, maybe perhaps in the use of the community's resources to better the community, then that's probably a discussion that is more appropriate to council's decision. If this really is kind of a mission and community vision statement for the whole community, then that probably does welcome a broader discussion with the community and looking at some larger aspects of impacts. So I think that question kind of probably needs to be addressed first, and then that would kind of, I think, guide where this needs to go from there. And I think from there, the staff report does provide a number of different sort of options in how we can look at that. We can, look at making this just a budget statement, and then maybe looking at doing a larger community envisioning process, maybe when we look at updating the general plan, which is coming at us pretty quickly. We've had several discussions in the past, specifically on the economic development front, LEDAC, in regards to, how we want to look at branding the community in our economic development efforts and wayfinding signage and such. That might be an opportunity as well. I think what stopped us there is, kind of that initial cost to embark in that endeavor. So I think the good news, as always, is that you have options, and the bad news is that you have options. So with that, I turn it back to you guys.
So before we even start a discussion, I just want to recognize and thank Councilmember Matina for giving it a facelift. A long overdue, was 2012. And when you did that, it then raised some important questions like, so how are we using this, and how do we want to use it, and what should we do next? So it is all positive movement in a good direction. I just wanted to give you kudos for doing that. And that's kind of what brought us here. So I am curious about, can we just go into discussion, or do we have to start with this whole ask questions? I guess we need some public input as well, right?
Correct.
Okay, so questions that council members would have about everything that City Manager Ingram just explained.
My only question is from it's city staff that really make things happen at the city. Do you often reflect back to this mission and vision as a guide, or it seems like it's more the council priority areas?
I would say to Councilmember Martina's credit, she's been bringing this up for a couple of years, and we just haven't been able to really kind of dig in at this specific statement. Honestly, I think the work that we've done over the past few years in regards to the council priorities, and then how those kind of influence the goals. It seems like this probably should have been folded into that at that time and just kind of got overlooked. So I think, kind of taking a look at how it plays into there, that's probably where its best home sits, would be, as a statement above your 5 priorities, and then, and how that influences. It seems to me that's how it would kind of work best, kind of top down. And that it currently probably doesn't line up perfectly, so it might need to go in. I think it works better now. I think the wording that was in there kind of did bring some of those pieces together, but it seems like it should be a part of that process if it's going to sit in that document.
So to clarify, if in fact if it was it's named the mission statement and the community vision statement. So I guess if it is those things for the council, then it would reflect the council's priorities. Is that what you're saying?
That would be one option.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so right now it's kind of a vestige because it hasn't really been reflected upon or looked back upon to guide anything.
I think that's very accurate.
Okay.
Yeah, vestige is a good word.
So our decision is how I guess the question could come down to, does the council think that articulating, and we don't even need to call it what it's called, and articulating some kind of a statement of vision that accurately summarizes the priorities, is that what we're talking about? Something that really pulls together what we're trying to accomplish?
And I would before you venture on that, I would say that it does a lot better now. I think its previous wording, it did kind of sit out, but I think you look at, kind of the changes that were made, it does do a lot better in that guide now of trying to, kind of being in the umbrella to those.
Okay.
But it's probably worth a look together with those priorities. That's why I included the priorities once again there as an attachment.
So ever in the history of Lakeport that we know of, has there ever been a mission or vision or community vision statement that actually brought in people from the city of Lakeport to talk about their vision for the city?
I would say that that would be something that did occur in regards to the general plan update. The most recent being there in 2009. I think you can kind of see the previous vision statement, previous mission and vision statement did have some pieces that kind of directly go back to that general plan process. If I had to make some guesses about what happened in 2012 and 2013, coming off of the back end of the recession, although a lot of the information that comes out of the general plan talks about preparing for a significant amount of growth that did not occur. And that previous mission and vision statement that came out of that general plan process reflected that. It kind of called for, the preparation of the service provisions that the city provides, being able to care for a population of, say, 10,000 to 20,000 people. My guess, without looking at it too closely, is at some point somebody looked at that statement in 2012 and 2013 and said, this isn't happening. I mean, at that time, we were actually losing population. The 2010 census numbers showed that the city of Lakeport was losing population. I think there was probably a discussion there to change that mission and vision statement. But as far as, taking it directly to the community, I do not believe that that happened in 2012 and 2013.
So I'm not sure how to get from where we are to where we might want to go, because
I think we need to go to the public and then we could come back and discuss it.
right, I was having a question about how to get from where we are. And so you offered me an idea that we should
Yeah.
maybe go to public. Does anybody else on council have any questions about the process or anything related before we go? Okay, so open it up for public comment, questions or thoughts from the public in the room. No one in the room. Anyone online, Mel?
No hands raised online.
Okay, so now we can come back and talk about this.
So I agree with what Kevin said when he said it's more of a philosophical thing. It's been my experience that a lot of times when boards meet, any number of boards and corporations and stuff, they look to their mission and vision statement and said, does this fit our mission and vision statement? Well, this philosophical comment is beautiful and it looks great on the budget, but it's not going to help you make some deleterious or some, far-reaching decision based on the mission statement. It's more of a, just, it's really flowery and it sounds great. But I think what Kevin was saying was we do our council goals and our priorities under this heading, to accomplish this. But a lot of times when some company starts going awry and it says to provide the ultimate solution to people's decisions based on economy and efficiency and the most lowest cost development of these items, and they look and they go, are we doing this without breaking laws and being, frivolous? They look at that and they go, well, I don't know. So if we wanted to redesign it so that it's going to encompass all those goals, this could be a big deal. I kind of like the idea that, our goals and all of our objectives, which we go over tediously and discuss them, and then we refine them each year. The mission, you look at it and it sounds great, but this is how it really works. I don't know if we want to retool it and incorporate all of the things that we would like. We'd like to have a safe, because we want safety, and then we want better roads. We want to have the best public safety with the best possible roads that we could expend, and and all that. I don't know if we want to get that tedious with it. So I don't know that maybe Kevin's idea of putting some kind of thing up there and then having our normal goals and everything, unless we want to really deep dive. I don't personally think that the public, unless if they want to argue about our goals and objectives, that was the workshop, which is right, open to the public, and say, I don't like where your goals and objectives are. I don't know that they would be the ones inputting a mission any more than they would go to Pfizer and said, I don't like your mission statement. I don't know. The community vision, there you go. But as far as our mission statement, that's something that I think is a little bit more staff and council oriented, but that's just my opinion.
Well, I think, right, I think that it's just been helpful to sort of like, shake out what are we talking about? And so if we say, all right, from the standpoint of if it's a statement from the council about how it's what we're doing to go about serving Lakeport, basically, I think it sounds like it's basically a summary and a statement of what those priorities are that have already been worked on so diligently. And I think that that we could probably, not tonight, because it's we would need a little time, I think, just to think it through. I think we could trim this up to better match what those priorities are saying. You'll have some little quick statement about the economic growth and maybe, we could probably find a few more things that are matching. Yes.
Sorry, apologies, but during the hand raising session, no one raised their hand, but they did issue a comment. And so,
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry.
if I may, I'll go
Yes.
ahead and read it now. So it was from Studio 127. He or she said it would be great if we could talk about what it means to be a community. Also, it would be great if more time was given to the people online to reply.
I'm sorry. Studio 27, I am very sorry. That was that. And we're really super glad that you mentioned, because that's one comment from the community that says, hey, if there's one person like you who's saying they would like to be part of talking about what it means to the community, then I bet there are others. And so I'm thinking that, and this is just the talking it out process, not the we've got a decision process. That it would be useful to have something, if we wish to, for the council that says, remember, here's a statement for the public about what you're working on. Of course, they get to look at our goals and priorities too, so maybe we don't even need that. But if we did, we could just make this even a little more streamlined to fit those. And then maybe, as Kevin suggests, when it comes time for the general plan, kind of think about how to open up a conversation with interested community members to talk about their vision for this community, which is a different question than the vision of how the council goes about its job. Thoughts?
So I brought this up because I've always looked at this as kind of our guide when we are setting the goals, when we're creating the budget. It's the only time of year that we see it. And that, who are we? What are we trying to accomplish here? And I think we have done so much work to the budget to make it this beautiful book that shows, where we've been, where we're going, and it's easy for people to read. We've done our priorities that guide us in every decision that we make. And this mission and vision statement has been the same ever since I've started here. And it is the same exact meaning as what we've kind of changed it to, except it always just fell a little flat to me. And even the way that it was centered on the page and like one word below, it just really bugged me that we have this beautiful document and then it's not formatted, and those sentences, could just be so much, like create a picture in your mind. So the meaning is exactly the same, and it's still, to me, it's what we've been working on for so many years of who we are and where we're going. And I would have never brought it up if we would spend tons of time. I don't want to have staff put a bunch of time into it because we're too busy for that. But I do love the idea of just getting it updated. As far as a community vision, I think when we do branding and we're able to pull someone in and really work on those next steps of doing some branding and additional marketing, that community input of vision, that's when it'll be the perfect time to hear more about that. Of course, if anyone has more comments tonight on this, we'd love to hear it too. But that was my philosophy. That's how I've always looked at those statements over the years. And I just think that this looks a little better and is a truer picture of who we are and what we're doing.
Not to mention the fact, To Councilmember Matina's point, I mean, I just looked on the last few budgets. I mean, it's like page 2. So I mean, yeah, I mean,
It's like right at the beginning. It's like the title page and it just didn't really look great. And we have the rest of the budget is a beautiful production. So that's why I brought it up.
Well, I really like the update that you proposed that is now in up for consideration tonight. I think that that was a huge step in the right direction. As far as the next steps, I mean, the staff report lays out 4 different possible options. And I think that we stick with this update for a while. I think we do option 4, which is defer the action until strategic planning or general plan update. Being that this mission and vision statement hasn't been touched in a decade, if not more, I think that it's been updated. It looks better. It's going to look great in our budget document. And we can really dive into it when we do a much broader general plan. But as far as setting up like an ad hoc committee or something to dive deeper into the mission and vision now, I think we delay that until we do that general plan update.
So I wasn't trying to make, my view on this wasn't that we were going to make it a big giant thing. And I think it was clear that the good that you were aiming for and accomplished, Councilmember Matina. But I, even in the comments right there, I wonder if we're conflating this being something that guides the council with this being something that's going to guide a community vision. So the community vision thing is going to be bigger, and whether it's attached to the general plan when we get input for that, or I am a little concerned about waiting to get input from the community about what they see to be a community until we can pay for branding or whatever. So I think we'd have to keep thinking about, when to offer something if that's what we want to offer, the community time to come in and do that. But if we've already decided that's different from the purpose of this, then that's not what we're even worried about right now, that whole whatever effort that's going to take. We can always be listening. And I mentioned this, we're all hearing from our community members from time to time about what they want. We already have some idea of what the community wants, but, to have a time when we can come together and hear from them, but that's not today. So for me, I think that it looks better, but as has been stated, it means the same thing that it did in 2012, and I'm not sure that it actually fits. If we want it to reflect our goals, if we want it to just sit there looking pretty, we've got it. If we want it to reflect our goals and priorities, I think it could probably use a little bit of tweaking, and I would just say that we could all think about it, come back, and just like Councilmember Matina did, she worked hard, she came up with some options. Maybe we could just do that. It doesn't take a committee, it doesn't take anything. I'd be willing to do that. Or really, because I don't think it exactly captures some of those key priorities and stuff, though it was an improvement on what there was. So if we want it to be meaningful, I think we could improve it a little bit. If we don't care, because it just looks nicer now, then we have one. So what would y'all like to do?
I'm fine with the updated version and then waiting to revisit it for more community input at another time.
Would that be revisiting this?
No. So our mission statement to stay as it is with the revision from our previous meeting, I would leave it as it is revised, and then later do a more community oriented
focused one, something different.
statement.
Okay. Councilmember Parlett?
My question is, when we put the budget out there, I would love to see the number of clicks on it, how many people, go through that. And then I don't know how many council members in their tenure have ever had anybody go, man, I don't know what it is with you guys and your mission and your vision, man. You guys need to get your stuff together. I mean, it's always about streets and the park and the restrooms and, why haven't they paid my, street? I think kind of relating back to Councilmember Matina, the staff's got a lot to do. And we usually have plenty here to do. And I really like the improvement. And I don't know that, we got the budget out, we got the improved version on there. We can, so to speak, kick this down the street for a while. And I think that big improvement will be great. And I think it's centered on the page better, so that'll make, the only person that complained about it has been taken care of.
And so yeah, so there, and I think the light is dawning here. So we leave it as it is. It looks nicer. It was definitely improvement. We live with it for a year. The budget will roll around again. If we decide we want to, massage it a little bit next year, we can do that again, right? And if we think, yeah, Stacy has 12 months to work on it. But we can all put her, because she's broken that ground, and now we see we can always be thinking about it in a fresh way. So, all right. So with all of that said, is there a motion?
I'm not going to go with one of the suggested. I'm going to make a motion that we,
Do nothing.
well, we keep the mission and vision as it was amended, and we revisit during the next budget cycle.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, that takes us to Public Works Director. Contract award, approve the plans, specifications, and working details, and award a construction contract to Galati Construction Company Incorporated for the Martin and Lakeshore repaving project, and authorize the city manager to execute the construction contract for the bid amount of $1,211,621.40. All right.
Thank you, Mayor Costa and council. I won't reiterate what you just read, but this work consists of pavement rehabilitation on Martin Lakeshore Boulevard, and the work includes full depth reclamation, which is a complete road reconstruction from, it varies from 18 inches to 2 feet down into the base below the pavement, and reconstructing the whole structural portion of the road, not just a simple mill and fill or a double chip with a fog seal or something that's less durable. This is the full reconstruction, something that has been sorely needed on Martin Street and that segment of Lakeshore. We did put this out to bid for a significant amount of time, and we received 3 competitive bids back on that were really close together. We did add in a not to exceed contingency of 10% on this, because the nature of full depth reclamation is often you find stuff underneath the road section that we didn't plan on, and it can increase. And so the rest of the staff report lays out fairly well. The funding on this was, I would think, similar to a PG&E bill. We had to get very creative. I don't know that I've ever brought a staff report with the fiscal impact, checking all 4 boxes with an other also checked. And, we had to be really careful because we did this paving in conjunction with the water and sewer project, and the allowable percentages that we can use of the road surface that was impacted due to the water upgrades or the sewer upgrades. And so this was a really tough one to put together and maximize the amount of new road surface that we could get and that we desperately needed in those areas. So I'm available for any questions about the projects.
Did I miss it in the report? How many, feet or, miles or what it is that is actually being done?
I forget the total lineal feet on Martin. It's somewhere around 3,000, I think, and about the same on
They're pretty,
Lakeshore.
yeah.
Maybe Paul has a better idea, because it really follows the lineal feet of the pipe that was also
Right.
around.
I think it's about a mile of roadway.
Yeah, that's
Correct,
about
around
right, yeah.
5,500 to 6,000 total lineal feet.
So when people talk about the reconstruction of a road, $1 million a mile, roughly.
For full
full-
depth reclamation.
And which is why we always have the conversation about fixing the good roads and the chip seals and all that stuff, because you don't want to do this very often.
Correct, and this is a 20 to 30-year treatment on those segments of road.
That's great.
Yeah, I was glad that Ron kind of brought up, I mean, this really is, I mean, the number of different pieces that go through here. I mean, obviously it's in conjunction, it's with the water and sewer projects. So that portion's not that hard to understand, but I think the piece that Ron's talking about that is important to understand for council is that one of the funding sources that we're using here is the monies that we get from, gas tax, the state gas tax, our federal highway stuff and SB1 sort of stuff. And this project represents the savings of several years. So we will be kind of, which is why we saved it, so that we're able to do a big project on it. But this isn't something that we're able to do each year. I mean, this will now have to build back up before we have money to do, even, a moderate scale, road project with it. We do utilize that, for a lot of our maintenance activities, a lot of our, potholes and, filling and materials and general maintenance stuff comes out of that. And that was one of Danielle's puzzles that she had to work out, is how we try and make sure that we're not, rating that completely where we're not able to maintain our roads for this year as well. And we did really well on that. But I think it's important for council to understand that this is our road savings from the past few years. And this isn't something that we can turn around and do each year. So that, goes right into, and I would agree, it, kind of resembles a PG&E bill.
It looks like they're gonna be able to get going on it pretty quickly and have it done by the end of October is the estimate.
Yep, that's a good time frame. We would have liked to have gotten started even sooner, but with Martin Street and the scheduling of the fair, we are holding off until the week after the fair to begin the construction.
I think
Smart.
that's, yeah.
Good, yeah. I have one question, if I might. We just received the active transportation plan, and I know that timeline wise, I'm sure that this was all designed and drawn before that plan came out, but I couldn't help but notice that we didn't have any elements of that included in this as far as striping goes or anything of that nature. Is that something that we can change? Is that something that adjusting a stripe for a bike lane or making it colorized in the middle just for that line of sight thing we were all talking about? Is it too late, or is that something we can add or change?
It's not too late, and I do believe there are some components from the active transportation plan in there. There is the bike lane striping included on Lakeshore Boulevard, and with the contingency that we've built in here, if council approved the contract award tonight, that wouldn't prevent a discussion on striping, which typically, always comes at the end of a paving project. We would have time if council wanted more information or more options on what potentially could be included, what the budget would look like. I mean, we would be happy to provide that in time to council to use that information to guide decisions there.
Yeah, I don't have our agenda planning document in front of us, but I believe when we were talking about it today, we're talking about our twice a year, our biannual kind of traffic safety update, I think is coming. I want to say that it'd be the second meeting in August. And so we can, the 19th. So I think we can, certainly add that as a component to see, and we can make sure that we include in that, an analysis of the, taking a look at the active transportation plan that was recently adopted and how it conflicts with these two projects. I think Martin's a little bit harder, given some of the drainage aspects and pieces on that. But the active transportation plan does have some nice thoughts on Martin and how we want to look at Armstrong as well. So, but we can certainly have that conversation as a part of that. When we bring that up on, and I'll make sure that we don't boot it on accident to get it. We want to make sure that it's in time to coincide with this project.
I feel like there's a lot of good paving projects coming up before us lately, so I love it. And yeah, looking at some changing and striping later down the road is fine, but love it the way it is too.
I think the nice thing too is when we are talking about striping, now granted, we don't want to just go, take the striping off and redo it, but it does, it's a lot different restriping something than it is to repave something.
Yeah.
And then I think too that I think it's also very important to kind of take a step back and look at one of the things we'd want to avoid is just, adding a small segment of bike lane and then not looking at it in conjunction with everything else. So I think the nice thing is we'll make sure we kind of look at it from a corridor standpoint. And I think given that we just did South Main and we're doing Lakeshore on top, I mean, that is part of that long corridor. One of our big pieces is trying to connect the schools to the downtown area. So I think it all does come together to have a good conversation about it now. And we'll make sure that we do that before we get too far along there.
Perfect.
Any other questions from council? Okay, so we'll open up for public comment. Anybody in the room? Anybody online, Mel?
No hands raised or messages in the chat.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So bring it back for any further discussion from council.
Madam Mayor, if there's nothing further.
Well, I just wanted to
Yeah,
say,
go ahead.
I think that it's a great opportunity to have a repaved, black asphalt to begin. It's exciting now that we have adopted the active transportation plan. It's something we can keep in mind and grab opportunities on when we can start incorporating a little bit. So thank you, City Manager Ingram, for identifying a way that we could, work that in here soon. And thank you, Ron.
And I'll just, I just want to thank Ron for always being available to answer my questions and put my worrisome mind at ease. I did have a couple of questions regarding the active transportation plan and lane widths and lane lines, if you will. And yeah, Ron took some time and gave me a call, and 45 minutes later, no, I'm just kidding. It was good. I just appreciate the time and just the communication is there. I appreciate it.
Good deal. Okay.
Ready?
Take it away.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the plan, specifications, and working details and award a construction contract to Galati Construction Company, Inc. for the Martin and Lakeshore repaving project and authorize the city manager to execute the construction contract for the bid amount of $1,211,621.40.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. And none opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to City Council communications. Start with Community Development Director. Usually I write these things down because I always I get stuck and my brain doesn't work when I'm looking at you and each person. But I'm going to do it with no props tonight. So
Joey Henowitz.
Joey, let's get into it, Joey. Joey Henowitz, Community Development Director. What you got?
Yeah. So just a couple items on my end. CDD has obviously been working hard and behind the scenes on a lot of projects that you're now seeing come into fruition out in the city. Starting first with our own council members, Disney's Water Sports, begin the grading over on their project down in Lakeshore. So it's very excited to get that moving forward. Building permits approved, so they're good to go there with that. As you probably have noticed as well, at Vista Point, they have begun the demolition of the old bowling alley and the old location there. So it's going to be exciting to see that a little bit of an eyesore come down. Still probably going to be a few years out as far as the development of the Tribal Health Consortium Healthcare Campus, but we are excited to work with them on their master plan development. And we'll be working with that on them in the next coming couple of years. And then also with the groundbreaking and the construction beginning on the Parkside affordable apartments there with the 64 low to moderate affordable units has begun. So we're just excited that this is moving forward, and it's been a lot of work. Especially with TDD, but with all city staff. And so we're excited to see a lot of these projects go into that construction phase. I just wanted to mention that.
A lot of stuff. Good deal. And Chief of Police, Dale Stobie.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Utilities Director, Paul Harris. Okay, Finance Director, Danielle. You're gonna have to help me on the last. Denise, I got it. I forgot. I'm sorry.
Zone.
Dizon, Danielle Dizon. Okay, thank you. Kelly, I'm not gonna do it, Kelly.
Buendia. I just wanted to share that the Wellness Committee, after a lot of work, has been received Blue Zones designation. So
Yay.
Lakeport as an employer, Blue Zones
Ooh.
designation, and they will be the Blue Zones will be appearing at a council meeting near you sometime near future to formally present us.
I told her to bring in a
you.
cake, but then it was like.
Oh,
It might be gluten-free, sugar-free.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Taste-free.
Kind of defeat the purpose. Thank you. Okay, Public Works Director, Ron Ladd.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
All right, Mel, the GIS dude.
Yes, nothing to report, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And what's your official title?
Assistant City Attorney.
Okay, Assistant City Attorney. Did they ever let you graduate to just City Attorney?
Hey, what, maybe one of these.
All right, Mackenzie Anderson.
Nothing to report, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
All right. And Kevin Ingram.
I'll just continue on where Joey's going. I think there's been some really exciting things going on in Lakeport, just in the past couple of weeks in the month. Start first with, I think, Chief Stobie and Ron were being very modest in there. We had a very successful 4th of July weekend. We saw, good crowds out here in the park. I think what we've noticed over the past couple of years with Habotten being in there is that it's really kind of spread things out, and I think it's made for a really neat and enjoyable thing. This is a lot of folks taking advantage of that. We saw, I would say, quite a big reduction in illegal fireworks activities, and I think that has to do with not just that we had a large number of volunteers and allied agencies, including, I think, 10 CAL FIRE folks, 9, some 8, close. And for the past couple of years, that's provided enough personnel to, expand beyond just the library park area and have folks out there in the neighborhoods. I think that enforcement piece is coming together very well. I would say our movie By the Shore at least doubled, if not tripled, I think, the number of folks that we had the previous year when we did it the first time. And I know there's some exploration in looking at wanting to do that again in the end of the summer. So I think, a lot of these community events and things were very well attended and are bringing the kind of life and vision that we've kind of wanted to see in here. And then on top of that, just reiterating some of the big projects that are going finishing up the South Main Street one. That one's been on our list for quite some time. My truck loves it. There's a lot less rattling going on. And then, to the paving contract that we just did here, watching Vista Point come down. I know, like Joey said, it's going to take a couple years for it to materialize, but to see progress on that site right behind the Welcome to City of Lakeport sign is great to see that movement forward. And there are still lots of other things going on. So it's a great time to be in Lakeport at this time, and just wanted to kind of reiterate all those items.
Exciting. Councilmember Martina?
Well, mine was kind of the same thing. Well, I'm just going to share that I've been getting so many compliments on the new road, that thank you for doing something about Vista Point. The parks look so beautiful. We loved the fireworks. So just lots of compliments lately. And I did attend Cinema by the Shore. It was a banger. There were so many people there. Super fun.
Go wrong with Goonies.
And they are planning another one August 14th.
Nice.
All right.
Think Top Gun Maverick.
Ooh.
Okay.
So
Nice.
Okay.
application coming soon, it sounds like.
Awesome. Councilmember.
I wanted to piggyback on the 4th of July, the PD staff, keeping everybody safe on the 4th, and Public Works. The thing that I notice, I'm down there all day long renting boats. I come in the next morning right to the park, and it looks like there wasn't 4,000 people there. Oh my gosh, it is amazing the way that they turn it around the very next day. So a huge shout out to the city staff for making that event safe, and everything's back to normal a day later. It's amazing. So good job, you guys.
Member Perlet.
Well, I was out doing public comment and I brought up the weather modification that's going on. And I'm happy to report that 31 states have introduced legislation to stop poisoning the air. Florida and Tennessee have already abandoned aerosol spraying and that kind of thing, which is kind of interesting because they had a verified aerosol spraying for rain in Texas, and Kirk County, they ended up going from, I don't know, 6 feet of water to 32 feet of water. And they had a young church group when they were being salvaged by Navy SEALs. And the idea of the government running a rogue operation with a 25-year-old CEO that's spraying the atmosphere, and suddenly you have a 1,000-year storm, and it's the third one in a couple weeks. The time has come, and Marjorie Taylor Greene in Congress has, or Senate, whatever it is introducing a bill nationally to try and keep people from running rogue and poisoning our air, which concerns me because this is one of the biggest basins, and it's verified that it's aluminum and strontium. And I understand that Shasta County's been having this conversation. That's not our purview over here to, shut down the skies as a council, but I think it's very important to us in Lake County because of the water that we all drink in the little municipalities around the lake, and we have to purify it, and they're heavy metals, strontium, barium, and aluminum. And the fire chief over there in Shasta County a couple of years ago said that it was accelerating the wildfires. So all in all, the aerosol spraying that has not been voted on, it's not been, dealt with in Congress. It's just a rogue operation. And I'm glad to see that the United States at large is starting to take a hard look at that. Marjorie Taylor Greene is pretty much done with it. So I think that's an interesting thing with our water supply, always at risk when people are flying over, just dumping garbage over it that might go into the water. So my thing. Sorry to put a damper on the situation.
Like, whoa. Thank you. Councilmember Price?
I had a lot more to say, I swear.
We'll take your time.
It was great to see the turnout of the city staff and all of the moving pieces for the Vista Point Shopping Center demo. That was really neat. Back to the 4th of July, it was very comforting to see not only Lakeport PD, but I saw a couple of officers, I believe, from Clear Lake, and then as well as the CAL FIRE out in full force in the neighborhoods. I would hear a big boom, and before I'd even get irritated, I would see a truck, like the CAL FIRE truck, driving to go, lay down the law. So that was great. Lots to be excited about in Lakeport. I'm very happy to be a part of this team. Don't forget to, if you have time, to visit Abuelita's Kitchen. Street Vendor Fair is happening this weekend in downtown Main Street at the Museum Park. And I do believe our friends at the Big Valley Rancheria are having their Thule Boat Festival this weekend. If you haven't been out there, it's a pretty cool experience. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so it's been obvious all the wonderful things going on. That Vista Point, every day I drive past that to get home, and I go cruising through the parking lot just to watch the progress. It's pretty exciting. And I think the only other thing that I have to mention is that I am going to meet with, I'm working with Herb Ling to continue the conversation about what could the future of seaplanes look like in Lakeport. He's putting together a conversation with some folks from, I think it's the town is in Florida. They've named themselves America's Seaplane City.
Mm-hmm.
Tavares, thank you.
Yeah.
And so it's learning from America's Scene Plain City for Lakeport Tourism Development. So I'll be part of that conversation sometime at the end of this month, I believe. And I think that's about it.
That's neat. Cool.
All right. So with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Good night.
Could be